Good morning. This week I went to a so-called kill shelter or killing station to take out 2 dogs. They obviously don't allow me to film inside of the shelter. I can only film the dogs that I want to take out. Also, I'm not going to tell you the name of the shelter to avoid any kind of problems, but I want to explain to you the situation of these public shelters, killing stations, however you want to call it, here in Romania and probably even in other countries. So they have a deal with the government which says that each time the government gets a complaint about a dog, or that the government has to take away a dog from his owner, for example for illegal hunting, this shelter has to take in the dog. For every dog that the shelter is taking in, the government pays money to them. Once the dog is in the public shelter, they don't receive money anymore for the dog, which also means that for the shelter, at this point, the dog has no value anymore. This is how almost all the public shelters here in Romania work. Even though legally they should be reading the chip of the dog for every dog that arrives in the shelter, they are not doing this, which also means that many dogs that actually have an owner end up in this shelter and finally die in this shelter. Because the shelter is not getting food for the dogs, they don't buy food for them, or some shelters maybe only buy the bare minimum for the dog to survive. But if I take this shelter as an example that I visited, they don't buy food at all. The dogs only receive food because there is a Romanian rescuer that goes there every week and brings food to the dogs, so that they are not starving to death anymore. Also because they have absolutely no value for the dogs and it's too much work to clean or to even just give water to the dogs, they just don't do it. Once a week this Romanian rescuer goes there to feed the dogs, to give them water, and also then the paddocks are being cleaned. And what she's doing there is she tries to find rescuers to take out the dogs like I did now this week. It happens very often that she arrives in the shelter and the dogs didn't have food since a few days, or that they simply didn't have water since a few days, and that when she is filling up the water, they are emptying the bowl in a minute. Besides this, the dogs in the paddocks often start fighting. They sometimes fight to death, and even if they don't and they get injured, the shelter is just so dirty that the wound easily gets infected and the dog will die because of this. Finally, if they survive all of this and the shelter is too full, they will be euthanized. This shelter and almost every public shelter here in Romania is just awful, and the number of dogs that they take in every week is frightening. That's why I decided to take out 2 dogs this week, because even though these dogs are missing basic needs like food and water or a clean place to sleep, some of them still are so nice and so loving towards people that they deserve a second chance. Now, let's meet the 2 dogs that I took out this week from the public shelter. Choosing a dog really is the hardest thing, and I just try to follow my heart. And the first dog that I chose is this female. She was so sweet when I entered the paddock, and she had such a funny way to communicate with me that I just fell for her. She was smart enough to know that I was a good person and that the workers from the shelters are not. Because when the manager of the shelter tried to pick her up, she growled at her and she showed her teeth. And she just let me pick her up without hesitation. The other dog that I chose was there already when I went there 2 weeks ago, but I just simply didn't see her because she was hiding in a corner. This week, she was not hiding anymore. She was standing at the gate, having the most desperate look in her face. You could simply see that she was so scared and unhappy with her current situation. Even though she was friendly and I could pet her, she wasn't wagging her tail because she was just not happy enough and not in the mood to wag her tail. She was standing there and desperately waiting for help. That's why I chose to take her out. And I can only say that she is so extremely thankful for this. The first thing I do when I take out a dog of the public shelter is I bring them to a vet, because there are so many diseases in public shelters and I don't want to put a dog with a disease in the shelter to spread it. So I brought them to the vet and we made some tests. Luckily both of them were healthy and didn't have any illness, so they could move to the foster place. They are so happy and thankful to be saved and to have access to clean water and to food every day. They love to cuddle, and even though they went through hell, they still love people. I will of course keep you updated about these 2 dogs. If you want to know more about them, you can check out my Facebook or Instagram, where I also regularly post updates about these dogs. And please let me know in the comments, what do you think about public shelters? Did you know that this is the situation here in Romania? And finally, if you want to support my work, please like this video, follow me on YouTube if you didn't do already. And if you want to help even more, you can do this through a donation via bank transfer or PayPal. I will link everything in the description bar below. Thank you so much and see you next Sunday.